As a child, I saw the future as a gift. Full of dreams and hopes wrapped in infinite possibility. Until the day my world fell apart.
Guards! Seize her and the shielded fellow!
And I truly learned to see. I've made my choice to stand tall in the face of tyranny. To shout no more as the strong prey on the weak. And as evil forces gather, I choose to fight, to reclaim the future from those who would try to steal it from us. Because then, they will learn the future is what I choose to make it.
Hello everyone. I'm Rocha and I'm the CEO and founder of Dreams Uncorporated and one of the co-founders of SYCK Games. And I am here to talk to you a little bit about Cris Tales and how we're trying to innovate on the JRPG genre. So this is me. These are the companies that are currently building Cris Tales, and we're trying to, as I just said, innovate on a genre that we deeply love and appreciate, and it's really important for us to be making such a game. One important thing is that we have received a really good reception, even if the game hasn't come out. The game is scheduled until 2021 at the moment, and but since we announced it last year and at the E3 conference in Los Angeles, we were really excited to receive such high praise from a lot of media, from a lot of people. We were nominated for a lot of awards from RPG Fan, from Dual Shockers, a lot of different outlets that really appreciated the game, that really could see what we were trying to do with this. And it was not only then, but even before 2018, when at Game Connection in San Francisco, we were awarded with a lot of different nominations, and then a lot of the awards that were given to us, including Most Promising IP, which we're really excited to be nominated and then to win. These are just a few examples of how the media has been treating us, which is extremely well. We were really excited to look at the game next to such games such as Doom, Final Fantasy VII. Of course, Final Fantasy is one of the biggest inspirations for us, particularly Final Fantasy VI. So we were really excited that a lot of these rankings were wonderfully put and assembled, including Cris Tales, alongside these wonderful games, which, of course, are AAA games. We're an indie studio building the biggest game we've ever built. So it was also great for us to be receiving articles from all over the world, including Japan. We were in Famitsu, we were in IGN Japan, and Europe, Germany. We have been in other magazines such as Variety, and a lot of different places where we were so excited to be participating in. And not only that, but in certain studies that we have seen, we've seen that Cris Tales has been the most talked about indie game during some months. So we were extremely humbled by this, and to see such magazines such as Game Informer, which me personally have been a huge fan since a long time ago, since I was very little. So seeing a full-fledged article of several pages talking about Cris Tales was incredible, an incredible feeling for me, and of course for the whole team. And it's not only the media, but the fans that we have gathered so far, the people that just with the demo that we released, because when we did the announcement, we also released a demo so that people could test it out. People loved the game, loved the demo, loved what we were trying to create, loved the characters, particularly Chris Bell, of course, who is the protagonist. So Chris Bell here can be seen from a lot of different perspectives, because this is all fan art. This is how a lot of the people in the world see Chris Bell, and we are extremely excited to see how people will react to the full game and to meet all of the characters that we are creating for this game. This is built by an incredible team, and these are a few of the people that have worked on this game, and we were extremely happy to be counting with such talented people. Here in Colombia, we are based in Bucaramanga, and we are very happy that such a wonderful game is being created by new and young talent. But now let's get into the mechanics of the presentation. So this is actually the philosophy of the game. Learn from the past, act in the present, and create your future. This is how everything is designed in the game. And with this, we mean that the original concept of Cris Tales was born out of this idea, of being able to see past, present, and future at the same time in the same screen. Because to be honest, we didn't even know that the game was going to be an RPG when we created it. We just came up with this really cool concept of being able to see these three time zones, these three time periods that were in the same space, but you could see very different evolutions of how everything was changing, how everything was, is, and will be at the same time. So it was very difficult. A lot of people at the beginning from the team didn't want to do it because it was too weird. But then when we prototyped it, it was just wonderful. And people loved just seeing how the screen looked. So you can see a little example here of how everything just changes. And the changes might be subtle, but they are very noticeable when you are walking and when you are trying to interact with everything. Of course, you are in the present, and you can see how the main character just walks around, can interact with anything, but she just stays in the present. That is one important thing for us, because as I said, with the philosophy, you learn from the past, act in the present, and create your future. Then we had to decide what genre we wanted to put this game in. So we wanted it to be a familiar game. That means that we wanted people to understand what the game was, because this could easily be a very weird puzzle game, and we definitely didn't want that. We wanted something that people could relate to very easily, and we had a specific target, a particular niche that we were aiming at. So that's why we decided the turn-based RPG. Well, that and the fact that when you think about these old RPGs, you can think about these pincer attacks that sometimes the enemies, were putting yourself into. So that was like a rare occasion for most RPGs, but for us, that was perfect as a main way to use these three time periods that we were using in the adventure mode. That's how we're calling, the puzzle part, where you go to the towns and to talk to different people. But the battle part, we wanted that to use those three timelines in the same way, in that triangle way. And by using that pincer attack, we thought that was amazing. And with that element of the three time periods, plus the element of being a turn-based RPG, we had the best of both worlds. So it's both nostalgic for a niche to be able to pick a target audience, people who like turn-based RPGs, and also new crowd that wants something different, that wants something unique. So we were attacking both fronts, and that was something incredible that we thought that we could achieve with this. And this is just an example of how you can see past, present, and future in basically everything in the game. So NPCs tell like a little story with every time period that you have. So you can see how this woman is in the past, she's just a young woman. Then in the present, she already has a child, and in the future, she's pregnant again, and she has another. Her child is a little more grown up. But you can see how the apothecary, who you can see in the demo, is just a little girl. Then she grows up and she grows a little older. So we tell a little story, like a little comic, by you just walking around towns. You can see a lot of surprises that we have for you in the story just by walking around and seeing how the evolution comes from past, present, or future. And with the enemies, you can see something different because we're not telling a story with the enemies. I mean, we kind of are, but the most important thing is to have different mechanics for them. So you can see how these enemies actually behave in a different way in these 3 time periods. So you can see how the slime, for instance, or slime, because it's different from other slimes, you can see how you start off big and end up really small. But the smaller they get, the more dangerous it becomes because they can blow up. They can do like a kamikaze attack, so they have different mechanics with each. So that's something that we really want from people, to actually understand how the different time periods of an enemy can change the way they behave, and you can change that time period at your will. So these are just more examples of how the enemies look, and these are more examples of how a lot of the NPCs change from past, present, or future. And now here you can see how you can send those enemies in a fight to the past or to the future. So if you send the goblin to the past, in the part to the left, to the inferior left side, you can see how he becomes younger. Or if you send him into the future, how he becomes older. They have different abilities and they have different ways of behaving, different weaknesses, or possibly different attacks, depending on how on what timeline they are. So this is something very particular that put a lot of effort on our side, on both programming, art, and different sides. But we felt it was necessary, and it was a great way for people to actually be constantly changing how fights can behave. Here you can see that it's not only it's not a simple way that we can use it, but we can use it in very different ways. So this enemy can have a past where it becomes like a little like a little worm that's basically harmless. He can hit you, but very he doesn't take away a lot of your health. But if you send him into the future, he can turn into this incredible queen moth that really does a lot of damage. But in some other cases, that same future turns into this butterfly enemy that doesn't do a lot of damage, but in the past can become this incredibly big worm that can even eat up one of your characters. So you don't know what is like the correct way to defeat this enemy, right? So it lends out to create a lot of different variations of this sort of mechanic. But we're not only trying to innovate on these fronts, but we're also trying to create different systems with this. So fortunately, there's been a lot of interest on JRPGs as of recent, with games such as Bravely Default, Bravely Default 2, Bravely Second, Octopath Traveler, Persona 5. So we're really happy that people are embracing this genre again. And we're taking a lot of inspiration from these games and from the classic games such as Super Mario RPG. And as you can see here, we took this idea of the status ailment. So for instance, in Super Mario RPG, you have the normal status ailment of poison, right? So you gradually lose health points. But you have this scarecrow status ailment that no longer allows you to use items or regular attacks. Or the mushroom status ailment that can do that if you have that status ailment, you can do nothing but regain health points eventually as you advance in the turn. So that is absolutely on point with the game, absolutely on point with the philosophy of the game. The same thing happens with Bravely Default, because you also have these status ailments that block out the unique concept that Bravely Default has, that is the Bravely Default system of accumulating turns. So with these status elements, they can block you of that. And we wanted something as special as that for or RPG, of course. That's why we created the Delta status elements that combine with the body types of the enemies. So you have enemies that have metal body types. And if you activate the wet status element on an enemy, they are wet, so the accuracy of hitting them is a little lower. But at the same time, if you send them into the future, imagine a metallic element that gets sent into the future. If you send something that is wet and is metallic into the future, what do you think will happen? In our case, we wanted that to be very natural, so the armor becomes rusted. So the defenses get lower and you can attack and be a lot more effective with this. So try this out. You can even see it in the demo. It's absolutely wonderful. But we wanted to do a lot of these sort of things, which we call time tricks. So imagine if you poison an enemy and you send that enemy into the future, he will receive all of that poison effect at once. Or if you plant one of your attacks in the present and then you send that little plant into the future, you will activate immediately the attack that will normally take several turns, so you can poison all of the enemies at the same time. So that is a little bit of how time tricks work. And I am really, really happy to be here trying to show you a little bit of how the game works, how these game mechanics and this game design in the world are working together, creating these wonderful dynamics. I am really excited to be working on this game with these wonderful people. So I'm also inviting you to try out the demo for yourselves. The demo is already on PlayStation 4, Switch, and Xbox One. It's going to be released on next year on these consoles, on both next-gen consoles, PS5, Xbox Series X, and even Google Stadia. So, and it's going to be available on Xbox Game Pass. So please test it out. Please look at the game, see how it feels for you, how you can see if it for yourself. And if you like it, please wishlist it, or you can do pre-orders now. So I hope this was a little intro to that world of innovating in the game design of turn-based RPGs that I was trying to tell you about at the beginning. Thank you very much for listening to me, and thank you very much for the invite. And from here, Colombia, muchas gracias. Ha sido un placer.